Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hello, audience. How are you all today, sisters? I hope that you're all really well and having a lovely, lovely day, inshallah. I've heard that it's a little bit cold today in the UK, but I also heard that people are enjoying the weather, which is a new one for me because I thought everyone complained about the weather in the UK, but subhanAllah, I'm really glad about that because it's good to be grateful for wherever you are, wherever you're doing, and whatever is going on. So I'm really happy that, mashallah, I got that feedback today from some of the mums today. Mashallah. Anyway, that's just a random side story. How are you all doing? I hope that everything is good and that you're looking forward to our amazing, awesome conference. It's coming up. We're working super, super hard. And Sister Tanzeela is here today, Coach Tanzeela Majeed. She's here from her company, muslimahfuel.com. And it's we've got her on today as a countdown or part of our countdown ready for our awesome conference. And funnily enough, Coach Tanzeela knows all about our countdown, don't you, sis? Because you've got your kids working with us.
That's right. Yeah. Jazakallah khair for having me on, Sarah. First of all, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. You're very welcome. Maybe the audience might not know you quite yet, so I'm going to read out Coach Tanzeela's bio to you all so that you can all get a feeling of who she is and all the hard work that she's done. And mashallah, we've been connected for about quite a few months now, actually, haven't we?
That's
over
right,
WhatsApp first, right? So
Yeah.
maybe at least 6 or 7 months, mashallah, we've been talking, and she's definitely got some amazing insights and things that have really helped me in my parenting journey, and I really wanted her to come on. So alhamdulillah, we finally managed to get it going.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So I'm really glad that she's here. So Coach Tanzeela is a marriage and parenting coach and a relationship counsellor. She's worked with women and teenagers for more than 11 years, and she founded Muslimah Fuel in 2011, mashallah. She's delivered her courses and programs in many cities across Scotland in various organizations and masaajid, and now serves an international audience online. So one second, just 1 minute.
That's all right.
Like that.
That's all right. I think we're in the same boat in that respect.
I don't know what happened there. Okay, so No One Taught Me This is our 5th conference, mashallah. And Coach Tanzeela, mashallah, you get the honor of starting us off with this. So I'm really glad that you're here. And Jazakallah, welcome. Is it Sister Sadie? Thank you so much for joining us, sister. By the way, if you're here and you're live, do contact us. Do put your put comments in the YouTube chat or the Facebook chat, and we definitely will see them, inshallah. So over to you, Coach Tanzeela. Tell us all about yourself.
All right. Well, first of all, Jazakallah khair. It is an honor to be kicking off this conference, inshallah, the countdown to it, should I say. So yeah, just a little bit about me and what I've been doing. So I have been basically working with women and teenagers for about 12 years or so. So I kind of started off teaching women Quran and Islamic studies, and then when I did my marriage counselling, it kind of just filtered through, and I started doing work with women. And at that point, I wasn't just doing work with women in terms of Quran, it was teenagers as well. And although I was really just teaching them Quran and Islamic studies, but what ended up happening is they would kind of just come to me in the side and be like, oh, listen, can I talk to you? But please don't tell my mom, that kind of thing, right? So I just kind of found myself dealing with teenage stuff. So my main thing was women, but they end up just coming to me, and that's kind of how it worked out. So what I found was that while I was kind of doing my marriage counselling and I studied like NLP, Master NLP, and I went on, did quite a few different therapies because I was really looking for something more wholesome, something that really hits the nail on the head, something that my clients could walk away with, and it was exactly what they need, but not just while they were with me or while they're working with me, but long term. So I ended up doing a few different things and found myself end up working with both women and teenagers, mainly kind of marriage issues, parenting issues for the women, and with the teenagers, all sorts of stuff. And what I ended up doing at the end of all the studies was something called the 3 principles. And really, to be honest, now the work that I do is, I would say, about 95%. That's what I do with people. And it's really, that is just kind of understanding how Allah created us, how our minds work, the psychology behind it, how that filters into our relationships and all aspects of our lives. And what I find is when you do something like that with teenagers, subhanAllah, setting them up at that early, at that stage, it just has a knock-on effect for the rest of their life. So basically, that's pretty much where I kind of started and what I'm doing now in a nutshell.
Absolutely. I really like the fact that you're working with the teenagers to start them off correctly, I feel, because I think as coaches, and I'm sure I don't know if you agree with me, but I hope you do, is the fact that I wish I knew these things when I was a teenager. I wish I knew them like at the beginning of my marriage.
Exactly.
Like, I think, I think I would have made such a huge difference in my life. It would have made such a huge difference in my life. I'm going to apologize because I don't know where these flies are coming from. I think it's the weather. Blame the weather.
So right, that's the joys of living in a hot country, isn't it?
Yeah, mashallah. But they're annoying me at the moment. Anyway, what do you think then in terms of what do parents struggle with the most in teenage years, and in your experience, maybe like what do you think you come across the most? What kind of problems do you come across?
Well, see, the thing is, Sarah, there's one thing is what the parents bring to me. And then the other thing is what the actual core reason for those issues, what that is. And I think 2 things really stick out for me. To kind of go straight to the core, the 2 things that stick out is, one, when you have like a younger child and you're raising that child, you've got lots of other people around you. You see how they potty train, you see how they breastfeed, and everyone's talking about it and we're sharing things. And we kind of see, it's physically visible to us how to raise that stage. You feed them right, you give them this, make sure they get their veggies in and all that stuff. But when they hit a stage where they're becoming adults, although we call them teenagers, Islamically, as soon as they hit that baligh stage, they're physically changing, they're mentally changing, they're emotionally changing. They're not the child they used to be. And you hear that a lot. Well, I hear that a lot, and maybe you do too, where when parents, when their kids hit that teenage stage, they say, I don't recognize my child anymore. I don't know who this person is. What they don't realize is that isn't the same person, because they've actually now hit so close to adulthood. And the thing about the teenage stage, we call them teenagers because the age ends in teen pretty much. But really what it really is they are transitioning into adulthood. And it may take 1 or 2 years, 3 years for some kids, different stages. Some might start at 11, some might start at 16, and they're all different. They're all individuals. But the point is, there is a change in them. And I think that is the core, one of the core reasons that parents struggle, because they themselves haven't changed their parenting. Their parenting's still the same from before, but the child has changed, right? The child has now transitioned on to the next part of their lives. And I think that's one of the struggles so that might look like something. When parents come to me, it could be a case of, oh, my child is lying, or they're so disobedient, or they're so disrespectful, or they're always with their friends and they don't have that relationship with me. And it looks different whenever they come to me, but the core reason is one of 2, and the first one I've mentioned, which is that transitioning of parenting. And the second one, this really I find so ajib, Sarah, because if you think about it, as a whole society, right, when it comes to teenagers, people just don't know how to interact with them. Like, if you think of bumping into a friend in the street and she's got a little baby in a pram, right? You go to the baby, you're like, oh, how could you go? And how are you? Big smiles, and you chat to the baby, and the baby smiles back, and you dangle a little toy in front of them. You interact with them. And then you look at your friend, and she's an adult, so you're like hugging her, salam, how are you, sis? But the teenagers, we don't really know what to do. Sometimes, subhanAllah, I've seen so often, people, they literally will just, it's almost like these teens are non-existent. There's no salam. There's no acknowledgement that teenager is standing there. It's really disheartening to see. And the whole thing about that is, we largely ignore that kind of age, that stage. We just don't understand who these people are. How have they gone from the young children they were, and they're not quite yet adults in our eyes. So what do we do with them? How do we interact with them? And as a whole, we just find people really struggle to be able to do that. So I think that's pretty much the things that really stick out to me in terms of the issues that parents have at the core when they come, and what they struggle with the most.
That's actually really insightful, sis, honestly, because I really appreciate when people talk with my kids, right? Like,
Yes.
like when they actually make a conversation with them. And, for example, for us, I think my husband and I being teachers, we kind of tend to connect with the kids on some kind of level, because, you might ask them about their exams or what's coming up, or, something like that. I think. So personally, I think that we do that a little bit, but I have noticed that sometimes when you're out with certain people, they'll kind of ignore your kids.
Yes.
And then, and then you can't really hang out with someone who's not really interacting with your children. But then once they do, you find that everyone has a better time.
Yeah.
Because they feel heard, they feel acknowledged. And some of the nicest kind of outings or the nicest conversations that we've had as a family is when everyone gets involved. So there'll be like me as a mom, my friend as a mom, and then her kids and my kids, and then everyone's like, talking, discussing. One of the things that we did when our girls were kind of newly teens, a couple of friends and I, we did like a little mini halakha every week. It was just us friends. It wasn't like a big huge thing, but just getting them all together and allowing them to have another adult or another few adults that they can actually talk to and trust. I think that's important, because you mentioned that at the beginning as well. When you're working in schools or in madrasas, like you said, the kids do want to talk to you, and there are things that they feel like they want to tell their parents, but they just don't know how to start.
Yeah.
Do you feel like?
Absolutely. And I think maybe it's because I'm a primary teacher as well. And you being a teacher, I think you understand that connection that you can have with kids, because it's what we do, right? So maybe it comes natural to some people. But when you notice it, and you actually notice some teenagers not interacting, they're just like, they're not acknowledged that they're even there, then no wonder they're going to pull out their phone, or they're going to want to do other things, and they don't want to engage either. And we can't put the onus on them. So absolutely, I think when there's been many times when I go out with my friends and my daughter's with me, and we all have a great time. In fact, my daughter's actually really good friends with some of my friends, and that's because of just being able to chat on that kind of level, but not seeing her as a little girl, seeing her as who she really is. And if she's past that stage of being baligh, then they can have those intellectual conversations, and they can have a laugh at our level. So yeah, absolutely agree with you there.
I've actually got personal experience of your children, so I absolutely agree with you 100%. I mean, just to let the viewers know, so Sister Tanzeela's children are actually doing the VA course. They're homeschooled, and they were interested in getting involved. And I said, why not come along and let's try. And they've been absolutely amazing in the sessions. And like you said, they've got a different level of maturity as well, in terms of, there are some kids that you might be like, you know what, you're not really suited to an adult kind of course or an adult environment, but mashallah, they've been doing wonderful. So I definitely agree with you on that side. Like, I think it is a skill, isn't it, being able to connect with people on different levels.
Yeah. And if we can do that, like, we're talking about parenting here. So if parents can try to connect with their kids at that level, so they're teenagers, to not see them as little kids, but actually see them for who they really are. And that's what teenagers struggle with. They're like, my parents still treat me like a kid. I'm not, and they're always fighting. They're always trying to assert who they really are, because we are not quite accepting them, right?
Yeah, it is. That is definitely one of the, I think, like, core understanding. Like, if we really understand that idea, we're just going to have such an easier time with the kids. You know, like that's like the basic thing that if we can understand it. So what kind of so apart from that, mashallah, amazing gem, what other advice would you give to parents that are struggling with their teenagers?
Well, I always like to kind of go straight to the core, because, you know, a lot of parents, they'll find, like, you know, little snippets of good advice from here, there, and everywhere else, and then trying to piece it all together and follow this, but it doesn't quite work with one child, and then you try it with another, and oh, does this thing work or not? So I think if we really just go straight to the key, right? And as the title of this is, the 4 keys. What we really want to do is get the most for our mileage, you know, get the most for the effort that we put in. So if we're going to do something, then we really want to get as much as we can back. And I think one of the key things then, and this one might sound intellectually just really easy to grasp, but I think when you experience it, you realize the consequences of it, the massive effect it can have. And that would be having what I call reflective conversations. And I mean by that, chat. Like, not, have you done your chores today? Have you done your homework? Oh, why did you not do this? Why did you not? None of that. None of the, you know, just basically having a pure connection of 2 minds, pure connection of 2 hearts, pure connection of 2 souls, where you're literally just talking about something bigger than the mundanes of life. So you're talking about big lessons, or you're talking about the system that Allah created, or you're talking about wisdom, and you're reflecting on, really, how do I feel today? Or, you know, really deep stuff. But doing it on a daily basis means that it doesn't seem that deep. It's just a way of life. It's a way of, this is how we converse. This is the level of our connection. So if we are feeding our minds stuff, and the kids are feeding their mind stuff, and then we sit down to have a conversation, you can have amazing conversations. And that connection is really deep. So it goes beyond, oh, my mom's always nagging me about this, or my mom's always telling me about off for this, and she's telling me off for that. All that, okay, some things have to be dealt with. You can deal with them. But what about this part? What about really enjoying each other's company to a deep level? And that's where I think we can grow, our kids can grow. And if you're doing that as a family, then as a family, you're growing, right? And I'm talking about a 2-way street here, by the way. It's not a case of, right, let me tell you some big life lessons today. No, that's not what we're talking about. And one of the signs that you actually are connecting is, you know, like some people say, oh, you should have a set time when you sit down and talk to your kids and stuff, and have some family time, right? Which is great advice. But if it becomes your lifestyle, it's not necessarily something you set at a set time. It just happens. You could be washing the dishes together, and then you're talking about something like sugar, or something so deep, right? And that's the kind of connection you would really want to aim for. But it starts by setting time aside mentally in your head, like, okay, I'm going to do this, and make it kind of casual and whatnot. But one of the signs of the connection really working is when you're sitting down. Let's say you're doing this at dinner time. So you're all sitting at dinner time, you're all eating, and you finish dinner, and your kids have finished, but they still want to hang around. They don't get up and pick up their phone. They don't get up and walk off. They literally want to sit and chat. That's the kind of chat I'm talking about. They don't want to sit if you're going to be nagging. They're not going to want to sit if you're like, right, now you have to do your homework and all that stuff. But if you're literally having a really enjoyable conversation, they want to sit. And it's those moments that really connect you. So I think that is one of the most beneficial for us to try and inculcate. And it's something we can do. That's something we can drive ourselves as parents and start to bring more of it into our lives, inshallah.
Yeah, I love that. And to be honest with you, you know, there's kind of an internal fight sometimes I have in my head. I'm going to be honest with everyone now. So when we're having dinner and we're just really enjoying the conversation, and my eyes keep going to the dishes, and I'm like, oh God, and I've had to, like, do you understand? You get what I'm saying, right?
Absolutely.
It's like in your mind, you have to fight that thought that I've got to clean the dishes, because I know as soon as I get up and start moving the dishes, the conversation's going to melt away.
Yeah.
Because they're all gonna, some of them might help me, some of them might just run off, and so on. So I have to like consciously be sitting there and be like, it's okay, just ignore it, just look at their faces, don't look at down, that kind of thing. But subhanAllah, sometimes I just forget about it because the conversation is that that involved. But there are times when you have to work at it. It's not as natural, if that makes sense, because you are thinking, oh, what time is it now? Oh, I've got 5 minutes. I've got to go and do this, and I've got to go do that. I've got to pay my namaz. So parents, maybe if we can maybe give them some strategies on kind of making that time.
Yeah, you bring up a really important point. It's like the importance of having those conversations. In my eyes, it is so great that it has to be one of those high priority things. And if it's not, then our plate is just going to get filled with other stuff, right? Like, let's say you had a child and this child had a real talent for something. They were really, every teacher was like, oh, wow, this kid is, let's say it was football, for example, right? Your child really excelled. Everyone's talking about this person really, something Allah has given this person real talent. What would you do? Would you just be like, no, forget that? I'm sure a lot of parents would go out of their way to make sure that child gets football practice because it becomes your priority. You're like, this is actually important. Maybe I didn't think it was going to be that important, but in this child's life, it's something that's a real talent of theirs. I have to make time for it, right? So if that is a priority, you would make sure you pray your salah early, you would make dinner early, you would run around crazy, so you get them to football practice, and that would become a part of your day because you see the importance of it. And I think this whole aspect of making time to sit and relax, subhanallah, it's important for everybody's mental health. Right? Not just the connection we're talking about, but the mental health. So if we're running around like headless chickens from morning till night, I mean, to be honest, let's face it, our day-to-day activities don't always reflect our priorities. And that's what we have to do. We have to sit down and say, okay, something has to give, right? Either I don't make biryani and all these fancy dishes every day in the kitchen, and let's make dinner a bit more simple so I can get out that kitchen. Either you do that, right? Or everybody enjoys a biryani, but then they have to run after 10 minutes because now they've got to run to everything else. So it's all about priorities. That's what I think.
Yeah. I don't know what would be more basic than my food being done.
that example comes to mind so easily because my cooking is the same, but it makes sense, doesn't it? It totally makes sense.
It makes sense, and I think that's probably that's why my cooking is so basic because
yes,
my priorities are completely different.
Alhamdulillah that's the case. They get more of you that way. Alhamdulillah.
Subhanallah, it's funny, like we're talking about cooking and stuff, and everyone kind of knows, I think, on our tribe that I'm not that good, or I'm not. It's not that I'm not good at it. Alhamdulillah, when I do cook it and they do eat it, and I feel satisfied that they've eaten. But I feel like you said, it's that extra effort that goes into, whereas I could be doing something else. So I've had to kind of learn about connecting with them in the kitchen, connecting with them while you're cooking, like you said earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
bringing them in. And I don't make biryani, but Aisha makes really nice biryani. So if you can't do something, they can always do it. And I don't know if this is the case for you, sister, but like I don't know, like about sewing. My mum's really good. She's really good at sewing, right? So she can make dresses and this and that, whatever. And I can sew basic stuff. But then, like, I feel like each time it skips a generation, because if your mum can't do it, then you have to learn how to do it. So that's what happened with my mum, because her mum couldn't sew on a machine. She could sew by hand, but not on a machine. So then my mum learned. Then I can't really sew because my mum could do it. Now my daughter's learning. I can't do it. Do you know what I mean?
SubhanAllah, that is so true. That is such a good point.
So it's nice, alhamdulillah, to have that little skip, and I'm glad it skipped me, man.
Quite conveniently.
Just thank God for that.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, mashallah, it's been really awesome talking to you so far. And I've, again, alhamdulillah, I'm just so glad that we get to do these conferences and these like discussions and talk to all sorts of different coaches, mashallah, because although we're all coming from different backgrounds, different areas and different places, we all have kind of a similar understanding about getting that connection right with the kids. And Amy saying that she was telling her husband that she's there not to do cooking but to do big things.
Quite right.
And Adila said that's true as well. And I just want to pop on there and just let everyone know that this is interactive discussion. So please do come along. If you have any questions for Coach Tanzeela, please do put them in the chat for us, and inshallah we'll get to them soon. So I was actually talking to a teacher this morning. He's actually a head teacher of the local school here with the kids. And I was telling him about the coaching and the parenting with Alabama side that we do. And he was like, wow, that's really good. He goes, do you coach some of the parents in this community, the kids that coach it? And I said, actually, no, I'm not coaching anyone in this particular community. I've just kind of kept it out because, sometimes you just want your life to be normal life around here.
Quite right, yeah.
So anyway, I haven't. And then he was just kind of talking to me and I said, oh, I don't mind coming and talking, as a group to some of the moms. And then we carried on talking. And then he said, no, I said, what I find is that a lot of the parents come to us and say, sort out my child. Yeah. My child doesn't know how to do this. And can you believe he's 15 years old and he doesn't do this? Or can you believe she's 15 and she's already answering me back like this? And most of the time, the mums or mostly the mums, sometimes the dads, they come to us with a problem with their child. And we end up helping them in a different way that allows them to be that calm, peaceful parent to their child, because there's more often than not something that they are not dealing with, right? So do you have any advice for that, like to deal with I'm not necessarily saying like trauma or anything, but just the fact that, like you said, we've got thousands of things on our plate and maybe the kids will play up. So do you have anything around that?
Yeah, do you know what it is? I think, Sarah, it's exactly what you said. When we bring a child, it's almost like saying, fix this child for me. But that isn't the thing that needs fixed. The thing that needs fixed, it's a relationship you need to, as a parent, need to build with your child. And if it was going all hunky-dory before, and now it's not quite working, well, that doesn't mean you need to do something to the child. It means you need to look at the relationship. And one of the other keys, if you like, that we were wanted to kind of go deep into is exactly this: trusting our child. And that might sound a kind of alien to people, and some people think, well, why should I trust my child? My child doesn't deserve it. They're always lying to me, or they're always doing this, or they're always doing all these things. They don't deserve my trust. But what we don't realize is they actually need it. The same way our child needs physical nourishment. So we do it, right? We give them healthy meals and we teach them all about that. Our child needs to have spiritual nourishment. So we do teach them about Allah, because when they're adults, what would they do if they didn't have Allah in their lives, right? And in the same way, they have emotional needs. And for their emotional needs, there's a part of that is feeling that you are trusted. So when we don't believe our children are telling the truth, we think that they're lying. That's a judgment. And that's not just a general judgment. That's a very deep judgment based on their intentions. We are doubting their intention. Think about it, when we doubt someone's intention, we're doubting their integrity, we're doubting their character. That's huge. But we don't seem to realize this is an emotional development of theirs, and we play a huge part in it. So it's not about fix my child. It's like, what relationship do you have? What can you do from your side? How can you help this child develop emotionally? And part of that is, well, let's take away the labels that we put on them. Let's take away the judgment that we put on them. Let's stop criticizing them. Because when we do all of those things, we are putting our expectations on them. That's a judgment. And that's not necessarily true, right? Their intentions. And think about it. SubhanAllah, think about every single person, generally speaking, has noble intentions. The only time a child will lie is because they want to defend themselves or they want to protect themselves from something that they might fear.
Yeah.
And that's a natural thing to do. So focusing in on, oh my goodness, you lied, or oh my goodness, you did this bad thing. Well, we're overlooking who they really are. Who's the person inside? Why did they actually do that? There is something good in them, but we can't see it in that moment. So the more we doubt them, we're actually not building their character. We're kind of damaging their character, right? So trust is a massive one. And it's not just about their intentions either. The other kind of aspect of it is trusting their ability, trusting their potential. These things are hidden. Intentions, ability. You know, the funny thing about ability, you might be able to kind of relate with this, Sarah. As teachers, we're kind of trained to look for certain abilities in children, right? Like a tick box. Can they do this? Can they do that? Can they do this? When we look at a kid and say, can this person do that thing? We're actually not looking for the millions of other things they can do. We're specifically, with these lens, we're focusing in on this one thing. Can my child tell me the truth right now? Right this second. And if they don't, that's it. They're going to be a liar for the rest of their lives, right? Astaghfirullah. May Allah protect. But the kind of judgment that goes on in our heads is insane. It's just crazy sometimes the way we can think. But we don't see it that way, you know? And the thing about their potential, who knows who this child is going to become? And if we can't see that potential in that child, then we're kind of dampening their journey. But if we can bring them up, lift them up, and be like, you can do whatever you can, then they will rise to their potential. So I believe that when we do this parenting coaching, majority of it is like, from the parent's point of view, if they want something happening, you know, we need to work at it from our side. And yes, I work with teams as well. That's kind of why I work with both. So I can tackle things from both sides. So I've seen from both sides. And a lot of the times, you know, when parents bring me their teenagers, and I do work with the teenagers, but inside I'm like, I really need to do work with this mom, you know? And I do that as well sometimes. And when I get both, really, that just, when you get the teenager and you get the mom and you're coaching both, that's just takes it to another level. SubhanAllah.
It is absolutely. I mean, I actually did coaching with Miriam and myself because, and subhanAllah, even after the first session, there was a difference because having, like, kind of letting her kind of, you know, get her issues out and me have my issues out, it kind of felt like we were both heard. And funnily enough, I felt like, oh my God, I wasn't listening to her. I just wasn't listening to her. I didn't listen enough. I didn't listen hard enough. And what I kept thinking was, she's not listening to me. But then when I turned it around to, I'm not listening to her, honestly, that, like you said, that about the keys to the relationship, we can add that as the fifth one. Because honestly, I do feel like listening to them. I mean, the funny thing, the other day, we were all eating and one of them said something and I went, oh yeah, what happened with such and such? And then she goes, how did you know about that? And then Miriam goes, oh, well, you don't know, but me and Mum have secret conversations about you. And then she looks at me and she goes, hang on a minute, I thought we had secret conversations all the time. And Zach goes, what are you two talking about? She always has secret conversations.
Brilliant.
So the point is that, you know, like, it's not necessarily a secret and, you know, we were all doing it tongue in cheek, but the idea is that connecting with each child on their level, like, and I find it so hard sometimes to even give them 5 minutes. Like today, for example, I've just literally been on the go all day long. And you'll know because I just sent you the link 2 minutes before we came online. But the point is that, you know, like, there is times where you just have to go, and breathe and calm and just go, right, okay, I'm not going to do anything else. Like literally, I feel like as soon as we close this, I'm going to close the laptop and I'm just going to go and be with them. And then, you know, in a few hours, everything will still be here. And again, as mums, if you don't, I mean, with the online world, we can do that, right? I mean, you know, Tanzeela, you're the same when we're being in the online world. If there is a time, you can do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you're in a real, you know, I said a real job. if you are in a like a 9 to 5 or a, you know, 7 to 4 or whatever job that you have, sometimes you don't have that flexibility, but that's when you've really got to be intentional and go, right, okay, this is the time that I'm going to switch off. So 4 o'clock, I come home, there should be no work, there should be nothing. I'm just focusing on the kids. And again, funnily enough, you know, I do feel that when I was a teacher at a school, I thought I was crazy busy, but that was nothing. This is next level crazy now, but mashallah. So before we carry on, so Aini has a question about I think a friend of hers. She's talking about an adult daughter who might be in about her early 20s. She's not married, but she has a messy life because nothing was right in the parenting to begin with. So how can they make some kind of a change now? She's saying that she's trying to help the mother understand it, but she doesn't want to say that you've been doing wrong since the beginning. How to make them start repair in a good way, or is it too late? And before you start, so just to add to that, we actually have another parent who sent a private message about boys, because, you know, I advertised this about teenage girls, but she said, what about the boys? What about the boys? And I did say that a lot of the techniques can be kind of used boys as well, right? But obviously you work with girls and their moms, right? So it's like that's what your area is, what your niche is. But I'm pretty sure the techniques can be used with both. Am I right?
100%, absolutely, because we're not separating the boys and the girls. We're honing in on what is the core that we need to do. And whatever you're learning today, even if you do have girls, you apply that to your boys as well. It's the exact same thing. And going to the other question, it's never too late. SubhanAllah, it is never too late. You know, even if she's in her early 20s, start today. And if you were just to start today and build a connection, that stuff in the past is stuff in the past. That's gone. Like, that's not here today. What's here today is the 24 hours of today is here. And there's so much you can utilize from that. So if they just start to build the connection, just like I was saying before, have really deep conversations. Even if you just want to clear up the air about the past, just have that conversation where you say, you know what, I could have done more, but I didn't do more. And this is my intention now. This is what I want to do. Let's do this. Let's start spending time in fact, if she's early 20s, it's the best time to go out for a coffee and do all those things you wouldn't have been able to do if she was much younger. So I don't believe it's ever too late. Even if she was in her 40s, the daughter, or the 50s, or a grandmother, it really doesn't matter, because that one conversation can totally put the past behind you. And then you've got the rest of your life, subhanAllah, to really mend and build that connection. And I have seen people who can't bear, a parent and a child who can't bear to be in the same room, can't bear to be in the same house. There's so much tension, it's unreal. They can't have a decent conversation. And I have seen that totally turn around, where they're embracing each other, they're hugging each other, they're loving each other, they're actively loving each other now, which they could not have seen before. So it is never too late, sis. If it's your friend, tell her that absolutely, just start doing the things that she can do now, and inshallah, Allah will put barakah in it. We're not accountable for something that, you know, like, if you think about it, Allah is so merciful. When we do stuff in the past, it's not like it's attached to us today and our life today is going to be dictated by it. No, that's gone. Alhamdulillah that it's gone. Alhamdulillah that we have today as a fresh day. So it can be a beautiful moment from now onwards.
Yeah, mashallah. What about just because kind of following on from the boy question, I mean, one of the mums that I talk to kind of often is worried all the time about his exams and his studying and his whatever. And I've always said to her, you've got to detach yourself from him. Have you got anything on that?
100%. Subhanallah. I mean, there's so much that we worry about in our own lives. And if we add to that worry that we have about other people, then forever all we're doing is living our lives in worry. And that's not the solution. It doesn't even help the solution. If anything, it hinders the solution. So our worry about our kids' exams will only make our kids worry about their exams. And when kids are worried about their exams, think about it. An exam is something you're going to study, you're going to go in, and you're going to sit that exam. That's actually the to-do list. But if you add worry onto all of those action points, you're literally making them heavy. And the heavier they are, we're supposed to use our minds to be able to study, but our minds are just too busy being worried. There isn't any space for the study to go in. So, a lot of the teaching that I do with my teenagers, the teenagers that I work with, well, and my own as well, but the teenagers that I work with, we go into emotional health and the mind and how it works. So if they want to do something, which is a behavior, an action, it's very separate from our feelings and our emotions. And let me give you a really simple example. I love giving this example, right? If you had a to-do list and on it was cleaning the toilet, right? Either you go in there and you clean the toilet, job done, right?
Yeah.
Or you sit there worrying about it. Oh my God, I need to clean the toilet. When am I going to clean the toilet? And all this procrastination and making it heavy, when really it's an action. But we can spend the whole day or the whole week worrying about doing that thing and never getting it done. All that worry did not help us. The only thing that did help us was the action of, right, I'm going to get up and do it, and then you do it. It's the same whether you do it with worry, whether you do it with joy, whether you do it with a neutral feeling. It's the same thing. It's just a to-do thing. Same with exams. If they can see exams as something I have to do, I do X, Y, Z, and I get to the end, then that's it. You remove the worry and everything is plain sailing, subhanAllah.
Alhamdulillah, that's actually, I love that. It's brilliant because it's absolutely true. Like I can imagine myself doing that. And I think it, not just in cleaning the toilet, but in anything, I think when you've got that worry attached to it, it just takes so much longer and so much. And once you've actually done it, you're like, oh, it wasn't too bad, was it?
Yeah.
Did it?
Exactly. And specifically with worrying about our children, because people think, oh, it's natural to worry about your children, as if it's kind of like something we have to carry. But if we remind ourselves that my child is going to have certain grades come May or June, whenever their exams are, they're going to have certain grades, and Allah already knows what those grades are. And the child, I'm going to encourage them to study because that's what I'm going to do anyway. So my worry is not going to even change the grades, right? They're going to be. And when we get to the day of opening up that letter and seeing the results, we all have to be content in Allah's decree anyway. So the only thing to do right now is to study as much as they can, help your child in studying, as in create the environment and fulfill whatever needs they need, get them what they need, get them all the help that you can get. And that's it. What else is there to help you get the grades Allah has already destined anyway, right? They're going to happen, right?
Yeah, definitely 100%, because I do that. What's it called? I do that as a part of the revision strategies just before they take the exams. We kind of do that whole session with them about, it's okay, everything's in Allah's hands, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. But like I said to you, still don't worry. So I've got a couple more questions in here. So I'm actually going to go with Adila's first because it kind of follows on from what you were saying. So she said that it's quite worrying when kids come to you telling that such and such parent's so strict. And then I question whether how I am is the right approach. So I guess she's worrying again on the other side. Am I being too understanding? Am I being too helpful? And she's going on with about the competition between the siblings as well as the cousins, and it makes a huge impact on a child's personality.
Right. Well, this is my opinion. I think as parents, we always waver. So we try and show our kids love, and then we think, oh, is this too much? Oh, I need to be a little bit strict. And we're always kind of hovering in between this little bit. I don't think we can ever be stable, like, hit bang in the middle, in the balance, and we're always going to be there. No, I think we're human. So we will have those moments where we're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I think that's okay. That's very human. That's very natural. We're trying. Whenever we feel we're going a little bit too much this way, we will go a little bit that way. And that's okay to do. However, having said that, some people are way on the other extreme. And if we look at the people way on the other extreme and think I should be there, like if you're showing your kids love and understanding, you're fulfilling their needs, sis. Adila, like, they are blessed to have you. SubhanAllah, may Allah reward you if you can actually show them love and understanding. Because if parents are unable to do that, sometimes it's because of our own nafs. Sometimes it's because we don't have a handle on our own emotional health. And because of that, we get angry, we take it on the kids, we start being strict, we give them, we discipline them in a way that's unjust. It's actually crossing the line. And we do it just simply because we haven't controlled our nafs yet. Or in that moment, we haven't controlled our nafs, right? So one of the things I hold myself to quite often, I try to as much as I can, I don't discipline my kids when I'm angry, because I know I will be unfair. I know I will be unjust. I know I will go too harsh on them. So if they want an answer, like, Mama, please, can I do this or can I do that? If I feel that my emotions are going to come in the way of my answer, I will just say to them, I don't want to answer that just now. Come back to me later, and I'll come back. You can come back to me later and ask. Sometimes they'll still push and say, no, but can I? And if they really push and I don't want to give an answer because I know I'll be harsh, I'm not seeing things clearly in that moment, right? Then I'll say to them, if you really want an answer, I don't think you want to hear it. And they're like, okay, no problem. We'll wait. That's fine. We'll come back. And then they'll come back to me later, and I'm not angry. I can just deal with the situation in the best way that it should be dealt with, right? So I think if you're showing your kids love and understanding, that is the hardest bit, right? Because it's one of the things a lot of parents struggle with. So if you're doing that, alhamdulillah. And as for being strict and whatever, I'm sure you yourself will figure out where the line is, and then when it comes to the boundary and you uphold that boundary, then that's where it's important to be firm, I would say, rather than strict. Firm, because strictness has the connotation of overdo it, because that's really not fair on them.
I agree with all of that, mashallah, because there's that balance that you have to strike, right? And a lot of sometimes we get parents saying, well, if I'm being like kind and understanding, but my kid's running in the road, you're like, no, mate, at that point you're gonna grab your kid. It's not about being fair and understanding and come on, darling, come back to the road. We're not doing it at that point. Yeah. So I love your example, Coach Tanzeela, because that's important, right? To have both sides of the coin. And I think that's what parents like about our channel, because we don't necessarily talk just about the peaceful parenting side, although that's what we promote. There is a time where you need to be a little bit more strict with them, but not so strict. Like you said, I love having the change in the word firm. You're firm, you're fair, you're understanding, but at times they've just got to do what they've just got to do, and that's the end of the story. So I've got Atia Zubair. She said it is a very taboo subject, but how and what is the best way to talk to your teens about pornography and the fact it's haram? It's so easily available. How can teens be told not to access it? And you know why I said the word told.
Yeah, you know what? This one is a tough one. And because my kids are homeschooled, so I know that there are kids who go to school and might be exposed to certain things or have a certain environment where things come into play and everybody's exposed to something. But I also know that there are homeschool kids who largely are involved in other homeschool kids' lives, and the parents are quite careful of what comes in and what doesn't come in. Not that they can always control it, and I'm not saying that they are controlling, but there are different kids in different situations and different environments and different crowds, and they're exposed to different things at different times. And then you also obviously have age differences as well. So with that in mind, I sometimes hesitate mentioning stuff like that because I've taught teenagers for so long, and we used to teach certain things that other people may not have said to the teens, but I would say it because I knew they're at a stage where they really need to know this stuff, and I would do it. But when it comes to our own kids, one child can be different from the other. So you really need to know, is this child ready to hear this? Because if the kids have never been exposed to it, or they just don't know what it is, and here we are with our approach thinking, well, this is such a terrible thing, and I really need to tell my kids about this, and then we pour it out in front of them, maybe it's a bit too soon. So I think we have to play it by how old is a child and really get to know the child first. If you have an inkling that they're pretty much going to be exposed to this, I'm sure their friends have talked about it. I'm sure they've maybe even heard it in school, like the way things are now, and the kind of what's in the curriculum now. It could be that they're exposed to it at a lot earlier age than we even think and know. So one of the things would be to actually find out what is in their curriculum, what are my kids being taught? And if they're going to be taught it at a younger age that I would ever want them to even know anything like that about, well, I need to have that conversation. It becomes a need, right? And I think it's about understanding when it's a need and when you might have brought it up a bit too early. But when you do talk to them about it, we can do it in a way that's, how do you say, comfortable. Like not as if this is something I'm really struggling to talk to you about and you're shaking in the boots and you're like so nervous and the sweat's pouring off you and you're like, I need to talk to you about something, and they're looking at you thinking, my God, what is this thing? And you've just really bigged it up because of the way we're talking about it, right? We can talk about these things in a really casual, not casual, but in a, what's the word, Sarah? You know what I'm trying to say? In a way that's understandable on both sides, and there's no heaviness attached to it.
It just,
do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think actually casual is probably the best way, because if you're, like you said, if you're kind of nervous about it and you bring that nervous energy to the conversation, that's going to be a completely different conversation as to if you just came to it with a comfortable, like, I've just noticed this, and what's your thought on it, or this is what I've seen recently, is that you, or do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like not blaming them, but like, do you know anything about it? Like, what's going on here? Who did that? Right? So it's not like questioning harshly, but just like have a conversation about it, just like you said. And I think that when it comes naturally is probably when you've noticed something. If you haven't noticed it, like, oops, I just kicked my cat.
Oh,
not purpose. Did my foot up on it and his head was in the way.
Oh.
Sorry. But what I mean is, like, have a natural conversation with them, like when it naturally comes up, right? Because the whole idea is that if you're worrying about it and you're thinking about it and you're stressing about it, that's going to come across in the conversation, and you don't want that for your child. So you want them to be like super cash, just, yeah, I just noticed this, can you tell me about it? Can you, without putting any blame on it, it's, can you tell me about it? And when you stop talking, have you noticed that as well, Coach Tanzeela? Like, just say, like, I've noticed this, can you tell me about it? And then just stop talking.
Yeah, that works really well. They'll be sitting there looking at your face, trying to see, how much does she know? How much does she not know? What's she trying to say? What does she mean by that? And you keep the silence going long enough that then it all starts to come out, right?
Yeah. They won't even stop at, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's all I knew, but they'll carry on until you find out. And you're literally just sitting and having a conversation, like you said, isn't it? It's just like super casual, just like there's no expectations, there's no worry. And with the consequences of any of this kind of, behavior, you've got to be absolutely careful with it, because you don't want, like I've got a student actually that it's like, I'll say to him, can you go on this website? Can you do this? And he's like, no, sorry, miss, it's blocked on my laptop. Sorry, miss, it's blocked on my iPad. And I'm like, it's class cake, it's not that hard. Yeah, but so there are parents that are like super strict with them. And yesterday, you know what I said to them, Coach? I said, so guys, right now I'm talking to you on over Wi-Fi. I said, so the Wi-Fi it's going through the airs from here, from my laptop to my Wi-Fi box. I said, so do you know where your Wi-Fi is connected to the wall? And one of them was like, no, I don't know. Is it connected to the wall? Like, what have these parents done? Where have they hidden the Wi-Fi?
That's so funny.
And I'm just like, wow, like so strict. So there's a balance, right?
Yeah.
And and yes, you have parental controls. Yes, I turn it off, with the roadblocks. They've got their 1 hour, and then it goes ignore. It says like, do you want 15 minutes more? Do you want to ignore it? And my daughter Aisha, she set it up for me for the little ones, and she goes, oh mom, they're gonna figure out how to ignore it. And honestly, Hafsa comes to me and she goes, mommy, can I just please ignore for 15 minutes?
Oh, that's so cute. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, okay then, 15 minutes. But I'm just really glad that they come and do that, because it is a big thing. And Sister Atia said, God forbid it's never happened, but I was just thinking if it ever did. So you've answered her questions, mashallah. Wow, we've been talking for such a long time, mashallah. I just looked at the time now. So can you tell us a little bit more about your teens coaching and mentoring that you do run? And just to let you know, I've put all the links in the description box. So
okay, cool.
So you can
yeah, so basically, as I said, I work with women and I work with teenagers, right? So that I have an insight into both different angles. And what I really wanted was that there's so many people that work with women, but who's out there for the teenagers? There's really not much at all. So I wanted something that was kind of all-rounded, wholesome, that would, it would basically touch their spiritual lives and their intellectual lives and their emotional needs and every aspect, basically, because that's what they need, right? So I created a 12-month program, a coaching and mentoring program, and it's got all of that in it. And alhamdulillah, the current teenagers that I've got just now, they've, mashallah, I feel so blessed to be a part of their lives because they've come so far. I mean, subhanallah, honestly, Sarah, one of them was saying to me, she was like, I look around at the adults around me and I'm like, we can handle this situation. Like, what's the big deal? And I was like, subhanallah, that's the strength from within. And that's really what I wanted. And to see them come along that far, I've basically wanted to open up the program again. It's taken me quite a while to do it. As you know, it's been kind of delayed, right? So alhamdulillah, inshallah, it'll be open next week. So what I've done is I've got a waiting list that people can jump onto. And they can see on that, when they go to the link to actually get onto the waiting list, they can see the 5 different zones that I cover. And the 5 zones just like dig deep. It's like a multi-pronged approach to all of the issues that they might be facing and all of their needs that they have right now. So the first one is understanding your psychology. So we look at emotions and anger, stress, like having stress-free exams, tips for the exams as well, their self-esteem, their confidence, dealing with peer pressure, all that kind of thing. That's the psychology part, which is most of it, I would say. Yeah. And then we've got the kind of getting their direction clear. Where do they want to go? Like these teenagers, what vision do they want to have in their life? Not just academically, because that tends to be our focus. Whenever, parents generally will help their kids from morning till night on their academics. But what we are doing here is spreading it to all aspects of their life. And then there's, I make it as practical as I can. We talk about productivity. There's so much in it, even choosing company, because that's their environment. So we look at environment as well. So anyways, it's a 12-month program. We meet twice a month. And, if anybody wants their teens in it, they can join the waiting list, or if they want more information even, they can jump onto the waiting list, and within, hopefully, inshallah, a few days, the doors will open, but they'll only be open for a few days because I have a session with them this weekend. We're actually covering gender identity and all that stuff that gets pushed down their throats. We're doing that this weekend. And then I've got another session the following weekend. So I want the new teens to come in, and then I can focus back on the teenagers again. So that's the hope, inshallah.
MashaAllah, it sounds amazing. And I've already had a look at it. And remember when I told you, I was like, wow, this looks fantastic. MashaAllah, there's so much on there. And being a mom of teenage teenage daughters myself. I'm definitely interested. So have a look at the waiting list, everyone. I've put the link here in the chat as well, and it's also in the description box. And if you get the email, it's in the email too. So you can find the link anywhere. Sister Sadie's asking if we have a WhatsApp group. Do you mean the Parenting Tribe one, or do you mean the do you mean for Coach Tanzeela? I'm not sure, but I can give you the Parenting Tribe one if I can find the link in just a second. So we do have a WhatsApp group for Your Parenting Tribe, and all of you are welcome to join. It is a ladies only group, so please, if you are a man, don't join. Thank you very much. And
it's the same with the waiting list that I have. It's aimed at moms, not the dads.
Yes, right. I actually, Coach, this morning, someone messaged, I don't know, it was about 11 p.m. or 11, I don't know. No, I think it was after. It was about 11:54, right? And she said something like, "Can you send me a voice message if you're a mum?" But on your business WhatsApp, it does like an automated on mine. You've seen it, right?
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
So she received that in the morning, and it goes, "Send your voice message." I was like, bro, I just woke up, like, give me a few minutes. And I was like, I'll do it in a minute. I actually, I could have just voice messaged, I'll do it in a minute. But, it's the morning.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I texted her, I said, I'll do it in a minute. And then she removed me from the group.
Subhanallah.
So yeah, but I'm not that strict. I don't have time to check if you're a man or a woman, and that doesn't mean that men can just join our group, because we should fear Allah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same with Coach Tanzeela. So please do. So Sister Sadie, if you just join the WhatsApp chat with me, and then I'll get you the contact details. The stuff is on there. The waiting list is already on the group. But if you join, I'll send it again, inshallah, in the WhatsApp. Jazakallah khair, Coach, so much. Thank you so much for this amazing. It's been such a brilliant, insight and kind of affirmations in that we're doing the right things. So it's been fantastic to have you over. Sorry.
Jazakallah khair for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Barakallah fi. And please, you're welcome anytime if you'd like to come again and answer more questions. I just read that at the same time. And Adila said that one thing she's noticed with her kids approaching teenage is that they're more full of questions than before, and showing communication and understanding is key. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
right, 100%. I see that. Assalamu alaikum, Farah. Hope you're well, sis. So it's wonderful to have you on. And sisters, don't forget that we have our amazing conference coming up. No one taught me this, and Coach Tanzeela was the first interview that we've done for that conference. So Jazakallah khair, sis, for counting us down and getting us all started, inshallah. And inshallah, we're going to be doing a few of these over the next few weeks. So just let us know what you'd like to know about, what you're interested in, who you'd like to see, and inshallah, we'll sort it all out for you. And Jazakallah khair so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.